उद्भवस्थितिसंहारकारिणीं क्लेशहारिणीं सर्वश्रेयस्करीं सीतां नतोऽहं रामवल्लभाम् नीलाम्बुजश्यामलकोमलाङ्गं सीतासमारोपितवामभागम् पाणौ महासायकचारुचापं नमामि रामं रघुवञ्चनाथम् रामाय रामभद्राय रामचन्द्राय वेधसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतायाः पतये नमः. We bow down to Sita, the beloved of Sri Ram, who creates, maintains, and destroys this world, the remover of all afflictions, and the granter of all blessings. We bow down to Ram, the foremost among the Raghus, whose handsome body is of a dark blue color, like the blue lotus, who has Sita seated on his left, who wields a beautiful bow and great arrows in his hands. We bow to Ram, to Ramachandra, to Ramabhadra, the creator, to the Lord of the Raghus, the beloved of Sita, and the Lord of Sita. Reading 2, Banishment, a King in Waiting. Ram only ever spoke the truth. He was grateful for the smallest favor received from others, but never took offense from their actions. He understood people and knew how to encourage and correct them so that they felt appreciated when they were with him. He always kept a positive outlook on life and had a natural sense of the right time and place for everything. Although he was already far advanced in knowledge, he continued to study science, politics, economics, as well as military arts. He wanted to protect his people from all harm, so he learned battle strategies and military command. And in personal combat, none could defeat him. Besides all this, he still found time to enjoy himself and was a keen patron of music and the arts and an accomplished writer. For all these reasons, he shone before all like the sun god, and all his people loved him. Not surprisingly, of all his sons, Dasharatha loved Ram the most. Emperor Dasharatha was getting old, and seeing how well Ram was doing, he decided to pass control of the kingdom over to him. Bad omens had been seen recently, which further convinced him that he should place responsibility for the kingdom into younger and more capable hands. He called together his ministers and advisors and put it to them that it was time to hand over to Ram. But he did not invite Bharat to be present. One reason for this was that Bharat was far away, staying with his uncle, Yudhajit, in the state of Kekeya. But there was another reason. Dasharatha had once promised to Kaikeyi's father, that her son would be crowned king of Ayodhya. In view of this, he thought it best not to give Bharat the opportunity to object to Ram's coronation. After thousands of years in the service of my people, my body is worn out and my mind exhausted. Dasharatha's voice rumbled like distant thunder. I now wish to install Ram as king. He paused. Does anyone wish to speak? The assembly shifted uneasily. They had to choose their words carefully. How could they show their enthusiasm for Ram without appearing to suggest that the emperor was indeed growing old. Mother Earth wants Ram as her guardian, spoke up Vasishtha. Therefore, she has inspired you to think in this way. If it is her wish and yours, then it is also ours. Let Ram be our protector. Dasharath seemed pleased with this answer. Then let us make haste. Now is a good time for the ceremony. The trees are in blossom and spring is upon us. So it was decided. Priests were sent for and hasty preparations began. Ingredients were gathered: white flowers from the meadows, dried paddy, grains, curds, ghee, honey, fragrant oils, gold, and precious stones. Call the royal guard, decorate the gateways, let the dancers perform. Tomorrow the moon stands in conjunction with the auspicious star Pushya, and there is no time to lose, decreed Dasharath. When all was underway, he called aside his personal assistant, Sumantra, and spoke quietly to him. Bring Ram to me. Ram prostrated himself full length before his father and waited for the familiar touch of his hand. Dasharatha drew his son to him and hugged him long before sitting him on an ornate seat. He loved to look at Ram. I am getting old. I have done all I had to do for the gods, the sages, the brahmanas, the people, and for myself. But still there is one thing that remains. I must install you as my successor. I have decided that you should be crowned king. The date for your coronation is fixed for tomorrow. Ram listened quietly, taking in his father's words. He enjoyed life as a royal prince, yet had no wish for this sudden change. But his father's word was law to him, and his deep sense of duty and his love for the old man, who had always shown him such affection, bound him absolutely. To question his wishes would be unthinkable. Always be humble, control your senses, and avoid anger. Lay up stocks of wealth and food grains. Keep your courtiers happy. Dasharath went on with his good advice while Ram listened respectfully. When the interview was finished, he hurried home to tell Sita the news. Meanwhile, news spread throughout the city. At Ram's palace, there were scenes of celebration. Soon, Vasishtha arrived, sweeping up to the inner gate in his chariot and hurrying inside. Dasharatha had sent him with further counsel. There is no going back on this now, Ram. It is most important that you observe the fast according to the proper rules given in the sacred texts. After Vasishtha left, Sita and Ram lit a sacred fire and made offerings to Vishnu. Then they spread grass mats on the bare floor of the temple and lay down to sleep, thinking only of Lord Vishnu. Treachery. Manthara stood on the roof of the royal palace, surveying the scene below. She had heard nothing about Ram's coronation, but she could tell from the flags, the freshly watered streets, the commotion and noise that something was happening. Have you heard? Tomorrow the emperor is to install Ram on the throne. The words spoken joyfully by Ram's old nurse, who had just appeared on the roof, hit Manthara's ears like a thunderclap. To her alone in Ayodhya, this news was not wonderful. She was Queen Kaikeyi's aged personal maidservant. When Kaikeyi had married Dasharatha, Manthara had come with her as a part of the royal household, and she was fiercely loyal to her mistress, particularly as her deformity gave her few other friends. She was a hunchback. She hurried down to find her mistress, as usual, reclining in her bedroom. "Get up," she scolded. "This is no time to sleep. Your luck is about to evaporate like a river in the dry season. In the absence of your son Bharat, your deceitful husband plans to install Ram on the throne. You must act quickly to protect your rights. Kaikeyi was bemused at this statement. She looked upon Ram as her own son. His good fortune was hers and would be shared with all his brothers. You are the bearer of joy, Manthara. Why should I be unhappy to hear this? Foolish woman, what is there to celebrate? Don't you see? Once Ram is king, your son will be powerless, and you will be forced to serve Queen Kaushalya. Manthara knew that Kaikeyi, as the youngest of Dasharatha's wives, was not fond of Kaushalya. But these words made Kaikeyi indignant. Ram is full of virtue and deserves to be king. Besides, he is the eldest brother, and it is his right. He will look after Bharat and me as he would his own mother. Already he serves me more than he does her. Anyway, Bharat can still be king. After 100 years, when Ram retires, he will hand over to Bharat, as Dasharath has to him. How can you be so stupid as to think Bharat will ever get the throne? Once Ram is king, the succession will go to his son, as it always does, and Bharat will be excluded forever from the royal line. Ram will more likely send Bharat into exile. Ram should be sent away instead, and Bharat should have the throne. You must act to protect Bharat and yourself from the schemes of your co-wife. Find a way to give Bharat the throne and banish Ram. Kaikeyi heard this with increasing alarm. It was true that she had always wanted Bharat to be king, especially because Dasharath had promised it so. And she did resent Kaushalya's superiority and seniority. Now Manthara's crooked words fed her fears and ignited a resentment born of long frustration. Her lethargy turned to anger. Perhaps you speak the truth, Manthara. Maybe Ram should be sent away and Bharat put on the throne. But how on earth could it be done? You yourself have the means. You told me in the past. Must I remind you? Kaikeyi got up from her bed. Her interest was definitely aroused. Once, when Dasharatha was severely wounded on the battlefield, you saved his life by taking him away to a safe place. And at that time, he offered you 2 boons. You said you would ask for them later, to which he said, so be it. You told me this long ago, and I have treasured it ever since, waiting for the right time to help you. Now you should ask for these 2 boons to be granted. First, ask that Bharat be put on the throne. Second, demand that Ram be banished from the kingdom for 14 years, exclaimed Manthara. Kaikeyi listened with excitement as Manthara told her to enter her chamber of wrath, her private room for anger and depression, throw off her ornaments and finery, loosen her hair and lie on the floor. When her husband would find her there, she must weep and wail and wait for him to offer her what she wanted. He will offer you jewels and gifts. Do not accept them. Fix your mind only on the throne for Bharat and banishment for Ram. Manthara made her put on old clothes and sent her to the chamber of wrath. The delicate queen untied her hair and threw herself upon the ground, scattering her ornaments about her. Tossing from side to side, she began to work herself into a frenzy. If Ram becomes king, your life will be misery, and your son will surely be killed, Manthara goaded her. Either Bharat will be crowned, or, or I will eat nothing and stay here until I die, said Kaikeyi, her face darkened by rage and her heart poisoned by Manthara's arrows of hatred. She awaited her husband. Dasharatha had just seen Ram for the second time, and evening was approaching. He had been issuing orders all day and at last felt confident that all was in hand for the coronation. Now he looked forward to the enjoyable task of telling his dear Kaikeyi the exciting news. As was his habit, he went to find her in her rooms. Kaikeyi's bedchamber was empty, her bed unused. He found one of her maids who told him nervously that she was in her chamber of wrath. In dismay, he entered the darkened room and found her sprawled on the floor like a creeper torn from a tree, weeping piteously. He knelt beside her, but she pushed him away. "My beloved, who has upset you? What is wrong? Let me put it right. If someone needs to be punished, I will punish them. Or if someone must be rewarded, I will reward them." The queen took no notice and continued to weep. "I promise, on my honor, that I will do whatever pleases you. I rule an empire stretching from the southern Deccan to the Himalayas, from the east of Bengal to the west of Rajasthan. Whatever you want is yours." She turned to him. "No one has insulted me," she sobbed, "but there is something I must have. Promise me you will give it. Give me your word, and I shall tell you what it is." She had Dasharath at her mercy. "My dear, I promise you shall have what you want. I swear on my beloved Ram, without whom I could not live for even a day. I swear I will satisfy your desire. Please let me make you happy again." Helplessly, the emperor was drawn into Kaikeyi's trap. "Indra and the gods have heard your oath. The moon and the sun bear witness to your words. Now listen to me." Kaikeyi's voice hardened. "Remember when I saved your life, and you offered me 2 boons. Now I want them. If you refuse me, I promise I will die. My first request is for Bharat to be installed on the throne in place of Ram. My second is for Ram to be sent this very day to Dandaka forest for 14 years to live as a hermit." Dasharatha could not believe his ears. All day he had felt a sense of foreboding, which now turned to a throbbing in his head and deep pain in his heart. He collapsed on the bare floor beside his queen and began to murmur, "Oh, pity, pity, your words are so cruel. What harm has Ram ever done you? When the whole world loves him, why should I send him away? Life might go on without the sun, without water, but I cannot live without Ram. I can't believe you mean what you say. This is not you speaking, but some evil spirit that has entered you. I might agree to put Bharat on the throne, but never can I banish Ram. Take pity on me. I am old. I am weak. You can have anything I possess, but without Ram, I will die." But the emperor's weakness only served to strengthen Kaikeyi's resolve. "You have given me your oath. Are you going to go back on your promise?" She tormented him. "Your word has no value? Banish Ram or I shall drink poison." In vain Dasharatha tried to reason with this cruel queen, by turns groaning and pleading, how would Ram, who knew only fine food and soft beds, survive alone in the forest? Ram was so noble and obedient that if asked, he would surely go at once without complaint. But what of Sita and Kaushalya? Surely they would die of broken hearts without him. Indeed, who would wish to stay in Ayodhya if he were gone? Even Bharat would not stay. And Dasharath would be ridiculed and die. Kaikeyi would be left alone to preside over the collapse of the empire. But the woman's heart was hard and cold, and his words were useless. Spent, he collapsed at her feet, a broken man. Darkness fell and the palace became silent. Dasharatha lay unconscious. As the long night passed, he drifted in and out of wakefulness, pleading and whimpering and dreading the arrival of dawn. The queen, however, was alert with angry determination. As the sky lightened, she commanded Dasharath to send for Ram. Unaware of these terrible events, Vasishta, who was the emperor's family priest, boarded his chariot in the bright morning and made his way to see Dasharatha, followed by priests carrying ingredients for the ceremony. Reaching the palace, he sent Sumantra to announce his arrival. Sumantra was surprised to discover that the emperor was not yet up, having passed the night in Kaikeyi's quarters. Passing the queen's personal attendants, who dared not stop him, Sumantra entered the inner chambers. "O king, awake, for today is a glorious day," he called. "As the sun wakes the world, so do I wake you. Vasishta is here, and all is ready. Come and order the installation of Ram." From the shadows emerged the emperor, red-eyed and feeble. "I am not asleep, Sumantra. Silence, please. You are only making things worse." The emperor collapsed onto a couch, and Kaikeyi stepped forward. "He was unable to sleep last night in anticipation of today's coronation," said Kaikeyi. "Now he is exhausted. Call Ram to come here at once." Sumantra hesitated, waiting for the emperor's approval. "Do as she says. Bring Ram," murmured the king. Sumantra hurried to fetch him. Hearing that his father wanted him, Ram came out of his palace like a lion from his mountain cave. Joined by Lakshman, he mounted his chariot inlaid with gems and gold and moved in state procession through the city. The crowd followed him right up to the inner gate of the palace, where they waited for his return as the ocean waits for the moon. Ram went inside with Lakshman. As soon as he saw his father, he knew something was terribly wrong. He was sitting with Kaikeyi on her bed, his face black with despair, like the sun in an eclipse. Ram bowed at his feet. Dasharatha could not speak, save to falteringly repeat the name, "Ram, Ram," and his eyes were blinded with tears. Ram turned to Kaikeyi in alarm. "What has upset my father?" Ram demanded. "Have I angered him in some way? Why is he in such a state?" "The emperor is not angry. He has something to ask of you, but he cannot bring himself to say the words. If you promise to carry out his wish, I will reveal it to you. On his own, he will never tell you." "Mother, you know that I will do anything for my father. If he wishes, I will drink poison. Tell me his wish, and I shall execute it. Ram never goes back on his word. Long ago, your father offered me 2 boons, anything that I wanted, and now I am claiming them. I have asked him to install my son Bharat on the throne in your place, and to exile you to Dandaka forest for 14 years, where you are to live as an ascetic. Now you know why your father cannot look you in the face. These words made Lakshman recoil in anger and dismay, but Ram heard them without flinching. His voice remained even-tempered as he replied, "If the emperor has promised you this, then without hesitation I shall go to the forest." Kaikeyi was delighted to find Ram so cooperative. Shamelessly, she pushed home her advantage, urging him not to waste time in getting ready to leave. "I am not attached to worldly comfort, and I will live happily in the forest for 14 years. I do not need to hear it personally from my father. Your word as my mother is sufficient, and I will leave today. Make sure Bharat is brought back here at once to protect the kingdom and look after my poor aging father." So saying, Ram bowed before his weeping father and the hateful Kaikeyi and strode purposefully out of the palace, taking with him Lakshman, whose eyes were brimming with tears of anger. Ram emerged into the sunlight before the waiting crowd. He sent away his chariot and royal attendants and insisted on walking on foot to see his mother. As he entered her chamber, he saw that she was in the midst of her morning worship, praying for blessings for his installation. Happily, she embraced him. Ram held her tight. "Mother, I have painful news for you. The emperor has decided to give the throne to Bharat and has sent me away to the forest for 14 years, where I must live as a hermit feeding on roots and herbs." The queen trembled. The blood drained from her face. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Ram caught her as she fell and held her in his arms. "My son," she stammered, I would rather have stayed childless than have to hear you say such words. I cannot bear the pain of losing you. Let death take me." Ram replied, "You must understand that truthfulness and honor come before everything. I am bound by my father's order. I would rather live in the forest with nothing than rule a kingdom at the cost of my honor. Do not blame Kaikeyi or the emperor for this turn of events. How could Kaikeyi have ever thought of such a thing herself? It is not her doing. They are both under the control of providence. I am also under the same control. I accept this as the will of God." Lakshman, however, was wild-eyed and ready to defend Ram by force. "This is a conspiracy, don't you see?" he cried out. "This story of vows has been fabricated to get rid of you. If it is true, why have we not heard of it before? As for your honor, your surrender to fate will be interpreted as weakness and your piety ridiculed. We must fight for what we know is right, not meekly surrender. Tell me who your enemies are, and I will destroy them. They will never send you away." Lakshman's voice broke with emotion as he wiped away tears of frustration. Ram caught his hand and tried to soothe him. "I know you love me, Lakshman, and I know you want to help me. Instead of threatening violence on my behalf, use your energies to get everything ready for my departure. I must leave as soon as possible." Kaushalya saw it was useless to try to dissuade Ram. She felt the misery building up inside her, threatening to consume her like a forest fire. She pleaded with Ram that if he must go, let him take her with him. She would look after him and prepare his food. But Ram was adamant. Poor father will not survive if both of us desert him. Dear mother, you know that you must stay with him. A woman's duty is to serve her husband, and he needs you now more than ever. Ram loosened her hold. Oh, no, excuse me. Go then, and may the gods protect you. I will wait for your return, my beloved son. Ram loosened her hold and made to go. Hurry back, my child, she cried. I cannot wait for long. He slipped from her grasp. Leaving Ayodhya. Sita waited for her husband to return from seeing his father, full of expectation for the coronation ceremony ahead. When Ram at last appeared, it was obvious that he was not his usual self. Whereas Ram had stayed calm with his father and mother, when he came to see Sita, he could no longer restrain his feelings. He had intended to leave her behind, but found it very hard to keep his resolve. What is wrong, my lord? You have come without your royal attendants, who should be with you on this special day, and you are pale and trembling. My beloved Sita, Father has seen fit to send me into exile and to give the throne to Bharat. Ram told her all that had happened as she sat in stunned silence. While I am gone, you will be under the care of Bharat. Be sure not to praise me in my absence, as this may provoke him. Honor my father and mother, as well as Kaikeyi and Sumitra, who have always been my well-wishers. Look upon Bharat and Shatrughna as your own brothers. Stop this, interrupted Sita. I am not staying here without you, so there is no use in your telling me what to do here. A wife's place is by her husband, and you are my husband, and you are my only protector. Do not insult me by suggesting that I will accept the protection of Bharat or anyone else. If you must go to the forest, then I will come with you. I will walk ahead, crushing the thorns on your path. Even though the forest is full of dangerous animals, I will be happy there with you. I will live on roots and fruits and cause no trouble. I look forward to seeing the mountains and waterfalls, the lakes full of swans and lotus flowers. I long to live in the forest with you. Ram tried to dissuade Sita. She had no idea how perilous the forest really was. I will tell you what the forest is like. Sharp stones, thorny heaths, the roar of lions and the attack of wild beasts, rushing streams, alligators guarding the rivers and ponds, hunger gnaws and mosquitoes bite. In wind and rain you search for food. In darkness scorpions sting and serpents creep among the stones. That is forest life. Sita began to cry. Either I live with you in the forest, or I will die here without you. Unable to deny her any longer, Ram took her in his arms. All right, since this is your destiny, come with me. Together we will vow to give up all comforts and live in the forest on the order of my father. To serve one's father, mother, or guru brings the highest reward, even entrance to Golok, the eternal forest of Krishna. Now be quick and get everything ready. Give gifts to the Brahmins and distribute whatever of ours that is left to our household servants. Lakshman stood by anxiously. Since childhood, he and Ram had never been separated. Fighting back his tears, he now spoke. If you go to the forest with Sita, then you must take me too. I can go ahead with my bow so that you can wander safely, enjoying the natural beauty, If I stay here without you, my life will be empty and useless. So it was decided that the three of them would go together into exile. The three companions went back to the royal palace to take their leave of Dasharatha. News of Ram's banishment had spread among the ordinary people of Ayodhya. It was hard for them to understand what was happening. Why had Dasharatha done this? As the three passed along the street, without Ram's usual company of royal guards and chariots, onlookers felt dismayed. They looked upon Ram as the root of their existence and could not conceive of life without him. "We will follow Ram," they said to one another. "We will turn the forest into Ayodhya and let Ayodhya revert to the forest. Kaikeyi will inherit a deserted city inhabited by wild animals and mice." Ram came once more before his father. Dasharatha had called all his wives to be present. Headed by Kaushalya, they filled the room, many weeping uncontrollably. In their midst, the emperor sat on a couch, propped up by pillows, red-eyed and exhausted, showing all the symptoms of a complete breakdown. When he saw Ram, he struggled bravely to his feet, but even as Ram approached, he began to totter, so that Ram had to catch him and lay him tenderly on the couch. Gently, Ram explained that he, Sita, and Lakshman were ready to leave and that they had come to say goodbye. In desperation, with a low voice trembling with emotion, Dasharatha spoke. "My senses are quite gone, my son, taken from me by Kaikeyi. I am powerless. You take charge, hold me captive, and take the throne by force." "Be calm, father. You know that I could never do such a thing. I am quite resigned to going away. Please accept all these events as inevitable destiny and allow Bharat to peacefully rule the kingdom while I am gone. If you are determined to honor my vow, Ram, as I knew you would be, please let your mother and I cherish one last night with you." But Ram would not stay. He did not want to prolong the pain of parting any longer. Just a tiny bit more. Dasharatha tried to struggle to his feet to give his son a last embrace, but as he did so, his fragile frame could take no more. The old man collapsed unconscious on the couch. A great wail went up from all of his wives. Even the men present openly wept. Even the men present openly wept. Kaikeyi alone seemed unmoved. "Mother Kaikeyi, please bring us forest clothes," said Ram, "woven from grass and tree bark, and a spade and basket for gathering roots and herbs. We shall take nothing more, and we shall go alone." Without delay, Kaikeyi brought what he had requested, and Lakshman and Ram changed into the simple robes. Sita, however, was dismayed at such plain garments and had no idea what to do with them. Ram helped her to drape them over her finery. It was a pitiful sight. Kaushalya embraced Sita with bitter tears. "Don't despair. Dear mother, our exile will soon be over. 14 years will slip by even while you are asleep." Then turning to all his family members and friends gathered around, he went on. "Please forgive any offenses I may have committed. Now I must take leave of you all. Farewell." Ram and his two companions first went to the emperor, then to Queen Kaushalya, bowing and walking around them in respect. Lakshman tearfully embraced his mother Sumitra, who urged him to serve Sita and Ram as if they were his own mother and father. Outside, a chariot stood waiting for them, carrying Sita's ornaments and silk robes, mighty bows and other weapons, a basket and a spade. They boarded it, and Sumantra took the reins. Picking up speed, the chariot headed for the city gates. On the way, the people of Ayodhya lined the streets. Moans and cries went up on all sides, and young and old pushed forward to catch hold of the chariot as it passed. Many ran after it, tears streaming down their faces, imploring the driver to slow down so that they could get a good look at the faces of their beloved Ram and Sita. Kaushalya, Dasharatha, and the other queens came to the edge of the city. They watched the chariot diminish into the distance, followed by a cloud of dust, until all that could be seen was a blur on the horizon. Kaikeyi came to take his arm, but he pushed her away. "No longer are you any relation of mine. I disown you and all of your household." After a long time, he turned to go back. In the moonless night, Kaushalya sat beside her husband's bed. His breath came fitfully in intermittent gasps. Inside her, she felt the fire burn ever hotter, consuming her will to live. Dasharatha reached out in the darkness. "Kaushalya, I can't see you. I have gone blind. Touch me with your hand." She took his hand in hers and let out a long, piteous wail. One more page. Into the forest. The chariot kept up speed for a while, with the citizens from Ayodhya desperately straggling behind. White-haired men bent with age who thought they could convince Ram to change his mind were among them. Feeling pity for them, Ram stopped the chariot and continued on foot as far as the river Tamas, where he halted for the night. Ram made sure the horses were well fed, but for himself drank only a little water. He had no appetite for more. Lakshman could not sleep and sat up all night talking about Ram with Sumantra. Several hours before dawn, Ram awoke and was distressed to see the good people of Ayodhya strewn on the bare ground, fast asleep. Without disturbing them, Ram and his companions quietly rode their chariot across the swiftly flowing river, being careful not to leave any telltale tracks on the other side. When the poor citizens awoke, they searched everywhere for Ram. Unable to find any trace of him, they returned to their homes in despair. At last, the travelers reached the holy Ganga, whose deep waters, decorated with white lotus flowers and swans, marked the border of Ikshvaku territory. Ram looked back the way they had come to salute the far-off city of Ayodhya, saying, "When I have honored my father's vow, I will return." The chief of those parts was Guha, loyal to the Ikshvaku kings. He welcomed Ram and his companions. Yet Ram was still not hungry for the food and soft beds that were offered. "I have vowed to sleep on the ground and eat only forest fruits and roots," he told Guha. Lakshman stayed awake a second night and shared his sorrows with Guha. "I fear that without Ram, the emperor and the queen may not have the strength to survive this night." Comforted by Guha, he shed hot tears while Ram and Sita slept. In the morning, the two princes treated their hair with sap from the banyan tree and twisted it into top knots in the style of forest sages. They put on quivers and loaded their gear into a boat. For Sumantra, the moment of parting had arrived, and he grew visibly distressed when Ram told him he must now go back to Ayodhya. The emperor and my mother need you now more than ever. Tell them we are safe and at peace. Embrace Bharat for me. Make sure he is properly installed on the throne. Console the people of Ayodhya. For when they see my empty chariot, they will know for certain that I have gone to the forest. Godspeed. Lakshman steadied the boat in the swift-flowing current as Sita stepped carefully in. Then they were off, drifting quickly downstream. At the center of the river, Sita spoke softly to the goddess of the Ganga in the waters, imploring her to protect Ram during their coming ordeal. Soon they were walking in single file, following the southern bank of the Ganga with Lakshman in the lead and Sita protected in the middle. Now begins forest life, said Ram to Sita. Today you will walk where no humans live. That night, as they prepared to sleep beneath the shelter of a great banyan tree, Ram's heart was heavy with thoughts of his mother and the persecution she would have to endure from Kaikeyi. He cried quietly. Lakshman came and comforted him and prepared a bed for him and Sita. It is best not to grieve, Ram, he said. Ram felt strengthened by his brother's words, and neither he nor Lakshman ever grieved again in the midst of that unending forest. All the next day they walked steadily within sight of the river. Toward evening they saw ahead of them smoke wafting up through the trees and heard in the distance rushing waters. They had reached the hermitage of the sage Bharadwaj at the confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna. Youthful ascetics greeted them and brought them before their teacher, who sat surrounded by birds and forest animals. He was expecting them and had made arrangements for them to live there, but Ram declined. Here people would find them out. Tell me where we can find a hidden place where Sita will be happy, he asked. There is a sacred mountain called Chitrakoot, 60 miles from here, whose woods abound with black-tailed monkeys, deer, and elephants, the sage replied. Rich supplies of honey, roots, and fruits are there, with sheltered caves and waterfalls. In the morning, Bharadwaja directed them to Chitrakoot, across the Yamuna and 2 days' walk to the southwest. Ram and Lakshman built a raft of logs and on it a seat of cane and rose apple wood for Sita. When they reached midstream, Sita again spoke to the river goddess Yamuna, asking for Ram's safety. Bharadwaja had told them they would reach a great banyan tree, and there they should turn south. When they found it, they stopped for the night. The next day they continued southwards along a well-trodden path. Around them were trees laden with scented blossoms, resounding with the buzzing of bees and the warbling of birds. As they neared their destination, Lakshman grew excited. Look at the size of the honeycombs and the luscious fruits. Ahead, I can see the peaks of Chitrakoot and hear the trumpeting of elephants. A sage, Valmiki, for it was he, was waiting for them in his ashram at Chitrakoot with great delight. He gave Sita and Ram a place to sit, while Lakshman busied himself constructing a thatched cottage. When it was complete, Ram built inside it a shrine to the forest guardians and to Vishnu. He consecrated it with Vedic hymns and a sacred fire ceremony. At last, Ram felt released from the pain of the past days, and they rested with peaceful hearts. And that's the end of the reading for today. Tomorrow, we hear about Ayodhya in grief.
vocal mic. Test, test.